Okay, we are recording. Tom, how you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. I've just had a cinnamon bun. Any day that starts on a cinnamon bun is a good day. If you just start with loads of calories, I find that's a really good way to start the day. How are you? Have you had
I'm
a
all
cinnamon
right.
bun?
I ain't had a cinnamon bun. I've had a flapjack, but
Uh,
but it come out of a little vending machine in the office block, and it was chilled. So like the little line of chocolate along the top was quite nice and cold. So it delivered. I
it's
mean,
not
it's
a
no
bad day.
cinnamon bun. It's no cinnamon bun, mate.
I'm sorry that I have one up to you.
There's a place in a big shopping centre near me, and they do these kind of like I don't know if it's a cinnamon bun, but they're like sort of, what would you call it? Almost like a pretzel type thing. And like, oh my God. And you walk past the place and they just give you free samples and it's like crack. They just pull you in. They're like the child catcher in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. They just sort of just wean you, give you a little bit. And before you know it, you're just like a zombie just going and handing over about 17 quid for a bag of two. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm glad we've got our breakfast out of the way. And let's talk about something that I know we're going to have a lot of fun doing, which is talking about records, mate. Um, Tom, tell me the song that you regard as having the greatest ever intro, please, mate.
Whoa, straight away, bang, straight in with the songs. Okay.
Let's do
I
it.
regard the greatest ever intro. This was hard, by the way. These aren't easy questions. Like, I feel like you sent these flippantly. But I am an overthinker, chronic overthinker. So I spent a long time
Good.
going over it. Yeah, like, I really did. Like, this has consumed me all week thinking about this. What is the greatest ever intro? And I have concluded that I think it is Diamonds on the Soles of Her Shoes of Paul Simon's Graceland album. I just think that the way that Paul glides over the African choir and it's just its own thing before it kind of kicks into the groove and stuff, that just really gets the hairs that used to be on my head standing up. So
It's an absolute belter as well. What a record as well. That album is a real masterpiece. Tell me how you discovered that, because that come out when I was probably 14, 15. I'm considerably older than you. Was it a case of Simon and Garfunkel and sort of tracing it back and getting stuck into the works of Paul Simon? How did you stumble across that? Or was it parents?
not parents. No, it was, I've been obsessed with music since I was like a little kid, like in an unhealthy way. My first obsession was Queen. So, but like in a weird way. So, like, I loved Queen so much that I draw a little mustache on and wear a yellow jacket when I went into school. Literally, I had no mates. I was like the weird Queen kid. So,
We'll get into bullying in a little bit, mate.
yeah. I think since like discovering that and seeing, it was like I saw those early videos of Freddie Mercury early live at Wembley and stuff like that, and just seeing the way he commanded the crowd and the audience, it was just like, I want to do that. I want to be that guy. So like that just birthed this love of music, and then I just realized that there was so much of it out there, and I just consumed as much of it as I could. And I remember finding Graceland quite early. Maybe I was like 11 or something when I heard Graceland, and I just thought it was like nothing that I'd ever heard before. The songs were incredible, the musicianship was incredible, and I just always, and it still is to this day, my favorite album of all time. Paul Simon's Graceland. Bit of controversy with it in it though. I feel like he didn't quite pay everyone that was on that record. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's what the rumor is.
I know, it's weird because so many of artists of years ago, it's there's lots of questionable things were happening in the music industry there, and it's something that pops up on this podcast a lot. That kind of, can you separate the music from the man,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
it's
he's not quite Nelly, is he?
oh no, it's not. No. That's a very good point.
Yeah, it is Nelly. No, it's not Nelly. I'm slagging off Nelly.
It's
R.
Brown.
Kelly. I meant
R.
R. Kelly.
Kelly. All right. Yeah,
It
yeah.
rhymes, doesn't it? It's not R. Kelly. He hasn't done any of that. He's not
No,
quite Rolf Harris. But I
no.
feel like he might have unfairly paid some people on that record. But
It
for me,
happens, yeah.
still
You
an
know,
absolute
it's
masterpiece.
he is a dude. He's an absolute dude. I want to ask you. I want you to put your songwriting hat on there, and I'm going to ask you about intros. And it's seeing that the way that that your band operates, it seems very lots of DIY, lots of kind of, you know, really solid and interesting self-promotion. And one of the things that I'm always intrigued to ask guests is, as a songwriter and as a musician, the days of having, for instance, Bohemian Rhapsody, you mentioned Queen. If you used to take Bohemian Rhapsody into a record label now as a new band and go, check this out, 20 seconds in, they'll be like, nothing's happened yet. And because we live in this fast-paced world of quickening attention spans, and I'm sure you're very au fait with the things, you know, such as TikTok and the importance of getting on Spotify playlists and things like that. And so you have to almost cut to the chase with your songs to get heard. And so I want to know how much of that filters into your creative process, and yeah, how much, if at all, do you pay attention to those things, and does it affect, you know, those moments that, you know, when you're in the studio of going, well, look, maybe we need to chop that off because we want to grab them here. Talk us through that sort of process, Tom.
I wish I could say that it was like, nah, man, I'm so, you know, true to the art that I don't care about that kind of thing, dude. But like, I do. Like, you have to. I feel like you've got to adapt if you want to be successful. And we do have incredibly short attention spans now. And I am trying to do this whole TikTok's a weird thing because obviously it's massive and it is actually responsible for a lot of like the hit songs these days. It's because people are dancing to it on TikTok or what. I'm too old to understand that. But I've been trying recently, and we got TikTok actually like a couple of years ago, and made the first ever TikTok that we made just like went viral. And it was like when all kinds of postmen were having hit songs with sea shanties. Remember, it was like a weird time. And I was just like, I was on the phone to Rob, our guitarist, and I was like, mate, I think we're gonna have to just succumb to this and do a sea shanty. Like, what's the worst that can happen? And so I was actually cleaning at the time, and I had a playlist on, and it was a cleaning playlist, and the song that was on was Rockstar, Nickelback. Like, that's not something that I'd usually listen to. No, I'm not dissing my mates in Nickelback, but that's not something that I would usually listen to. And it was just on, and I was like, yo, just do Rockstar by Nickelback. We all just want to be big rockstar. It'll like really go with it. Like, it'll work. And he put that on. He just made it in like, I don't know, 15 minutes, put it online. And then like we went to bed, didn't think anything of it. And I just literally checked TikTok the next morning. It had like hundreds of thousands of plays and loads of comments and everything. And in my DMs was Chad Kroeger from Nickelback. And he was just like, okay, let's do this together. Let's release it as a single. And this is weird because I'm on a Zoom with Chad, like trying to look at his kitchen and that, seeing what's going on. And like all of Nickelback are there. And I was like, I was a little mushy when I was a little girl. So it was like weird to have How You Remind Me Nickelback talking to me about this weird sea shanty that we kind of didn't want to do. And then we ended up releasing it with them. So the power of these social networks is like unignorable. And it would be mental to completely pig-headed go the other way and not try and listen to it. I've got this thing about the music industry, and please stop me if this gets boring, but like when music was first ever recorded, like when whoever invented it, I don't know who it was, probably Einstein, invented music recording, like people said that was the death of the music industry, because people then wouldn't go, and it was in the 30s or something, people wouldn't go and watch, I don't know, the Ink Spots, because why would they? Because they could just listen to it on the phonograph. And then it didn't kill the music industry. Obviously, the record industry was born, and it sparked much bigger than anyone could have imagined. And then later on, when tapes were invented, everyone was like, well, that's going to be the death of the music industry now, because people can just record things off the radio. Why would anyone go out and buy a record? And obviously that didn't kill it. Like, tapes are fine, and the music industry adapted, and all good. And then moving on, CDs, nothing really happened with that. And mini discs, just forgettable. And then the drummer of Metallica, what's he called? Can't think of his name.
Lars Ulrich.
He invented Napster. Do you remember that? And then he didn't, did he? He hated it.
Hey, you weren't a fan.
everyone was like, that's the death of the music industry because no one's going to pay for music. And then Daniel Ek came, monetized that, made it convenient, and then Spotify was born, and that's where we are today. And I feel like the music industry just has to adapt each time something big happens like that. And this new way is that all songs are 3 minutes long, and they have to get right to the point. Very much unlike my explanation and answer to your question, which went right round the houses.
That's what podcasts are about, mate. Love it. Love it. Right. I'm going to take you back. Tell me the first song that you remember hearing that had an emotional impact on you, please, Tom.
This was another one that I've just obsessively thought about all these questions, but I changed this one. I remember I sent you one, and then I was like, no way, actually.
Because you sent me Still Ill, didn't you, by the Smiths?
Yeah, because the Smiths are an important band to me because they kind of showed me that I was like a weird little nerd guy with no friends. And then so was Morrissey, though. And so were all these people that related to what he was saying. There is a light never goes out. There you go. I'm covered in Smiths tattoos. I've got one on my arm up here. I can't get it out, get the badge in. And it's supposed to be Morrissey, but it looks like Rick Astley. So
Even
it's just
better.
like a Rick Astley one. I've got one on my arm
Black McQuiff.
Yeah, so the guy saw that, and he was a tattoo artist, and he's like, that don't look like Morrissey. I'll do you one. And I was like, sound. So I got a second Morrissey portrait that looks like Wolverine. So like, I can't win with Morrissey portraits. And to be fair, another man that maybe his views I don't fully get on board with. So maybe it's better to have Wolverine and Rick Astley. But Absolutely. As a songwriter and as a man who creates art, Jesus, the Smiths were important to me. So I did say Still Ill, but then I changed it because the first time I ever cried at a song, and I must have been about 10 or even earlier when this song came out, was Baz Luhrmann's Sunscreen. Everybody's free to wear sunscreen, and I've tried ripping it off in various ways over time, and that's hard. But it just connected with me. Something about his voice and the advice, and over the backing track and the video for it at the time, which I probably watched on like the box. And yeah, that was just an emotional piece of music. And I thought, wow.
Where was growing up, mate?
Where was it?
Mm-hmm.
It's a place called Lee in Lancashire, which is like an old working class mining town where everyone knows each other. And I kind of like it. I hate it, but it's like your weird cousin, like that says weird things and ruins parties, but you have to love him.
Yeah.
You know, so like that is what Lee is to me, my cousin Lee. And it's made me who I am.
Yeah.
But I hope I make enough money to get out of it one day, Christ. Take me to LA. Take me to Miami.
Happy memories growing up there, though?
Yeah, I've got a lot of happy memories. I've got a lot of friends. I kind of found the musician crowd. Bizarrely, Lee and the surrounding areas has got this concentration of amazing musicians. All my mates are incredible musicians. And there's like open mic nights and jam nights, and we all hang out and play together. And I've been to jam nights and open mic nights in Manchester, in London, in big cities, and the level of musicianship is nowhere near what my stupid mates can do. And it blows my mind. And I've got a theory. I think it's because the schools were so bad that people weren't like pouring themselves into academic things, because no one had an aspiration to be a doctor because it seemed so unachievable. So people just got an electric guitar or a drum kit, and that is how they expressed themselves. So like my mate Johnny is stupid. Like with all respect to him, he'd be the first to say it. He's not the most intelligent guy academically, but if he picks up that guitar, he can make me cry. Yeah. Because he's just so good, and I watch him in awe, and he just shines when he's got the guitar. So like, yeah, that's what growing up was like, and I've got a lot of mates that are like that too. So I really liked it.
And does it tell me a little bit about that, you know, living in a place where everybody knows each other? Because the reason I set this podcast up was purely based, and I've mentioned it a few times on this podcast. Like I'm pals with a former musician called Scroobius Pip, and he lives at the end of the road from me. Mate. And
a letter from man to God.
Oh, that'll do it, won't it?
Oh, mate, what a genius.
But Pip's an Essex boy like me, and in all of his interviews when him and Dan blew up were like, I'll say, you from London? And he was like, no. And he was like, oh, you're going to move to London? No. I can get to London in half hour on the train. And so, it was, that's where the kind of concept come about for the podcast, was talking to people about where they're from and how important that is in their creative journey, and that pressure to relocate, maybe for you to Manchester, where or for Pip it was like, why are you not living in London? But then also, one of the things that growing up in Essex and being in bands and being around people that have gone on to have successful careers in music from Essex, I've always got that. I always like to ask people, like, where you come from, did it feel like you could get out of where you was from with music?
Yeah, it did. That was always the dream. I mean, it wasn't to like move away, but it was to see the world and see the country even, or see Birmingham for the first time, because I didn't, like, until I started touring around in the band, I'd seen very little of the world or the country. So I just wanted to travel and get around, and now we're like, we tour so much. We do something like 200 gigs a year. Like, I'm never at home, but it's still home.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to see places, and I feel so lucky that I've seen Europe and America, all because of the stupid songs that I write in my knickers with like mayonnaise down my front. People don't see. Like, I feel very, very lucky.
Oh, wonderful. Tell me about the song that reminds you of your time at school, please, Tom.
Well, it'd have to be Queen, wouldn't it? After I was little Freddie.
Yeah.
So it was hard to. I just thought I'd pick my favorite ever Queen song, because I used to obsessively listen to it all. But something about Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy, that it was kind of theatrical. The harmonies were amazing. I really like the lyrics, and the vocal is incredible. It was just like, yeah, that always has been my favorite Queen song. So I'm gonna go Good Old Fashioned Lover Boy.
Wonderful stuff. I mean, I've met you 22 minutes ago, and you don't lack charisma, mate. It's flying through Zoom. And so what I want to ask you is, going back then and you saying, drawing on a little Freddie moustache and popping on a yellow jacket at school, you're a confident young man.
I've got mad ADHD. Which means I'm quite a strange person a lot of the time, I think. So like I got kicked out of both primary school and high school because I just couldn't do it. Like, I wasn't fit. I was always quite intelligent, but I could never apply myself, because I always felt like, I don't want to say, my mum was always like, it wasn't challenging enough because you're such a genius. But I don't think that was the case. I just couldn't sit there, and it was boring, man.
Yeah.
So I wanted to like make jokes and stand up in front of the class and make the teacher look stupid. And so, yeah, I've always had that kind of need for attention and affirmation. And yeah, so that's where those were my earliest stages in those classrooms. So yeah, I think I've always been quite confident. I remember in our like year 6 play, obviously because I was the Queen kid, they had me dress as Freddie in the I Want to Break Free video.
Yeah.
Literally in my mum's tights and like a skirt and a Hoover. And like, thinking about it, like, that was brave.
Yeah.
As a kid in like,
completely,
that was, 1999, 2000 or whatever, like that was a brave move.
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything of it because I just love showing off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I probably was quite confident, but also inwardly very, very distressed and very, very self-conscious about who I was and how I looked, and so maybe it was a bit of masking, that the whole thing. But yeah, this has turned into therapy.
Did you know what you wanted to be?
Yeah, always. Ever since I saw Queen live at Wembley, I was like, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to accept anything else. Yeah. Like, and I'm still not accepted that it might not happen. Like, it kind of is happening on a small scale, but like, I am never, ever going to do a plan B. Ever. Yeah. I'll just, get rich or die trying.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it was 50 Cent that said it. Might have been Oscar Wilde.
It was. I went to my local swimming pool many years ago in Basildon, and saw somebody with one of the worst tattoos ever, but it did say "Get rich or die trying" across his back.
Yeah.
That's a statement. That is.
It is. It really is.
I definitely think one of his mates had done it after a couple of shandies as well, because it was a shocker. Now, when you think, oh, if I would have got a photo of that, that would have gone viral. That, but
Mate,
it's
you can
frowned
take
upon
some
taking
photos
cameras
of...
into swimming pools.
I have got some terrible, terrible tattoos, mate. You can have photos of mine if you want to go viral with them. I've got Louis Theroux on my thigh. I don't know why. Just a big picture of Louis Theroux, which I
Why?
believe it. I love Louis Theroux.
Yeah, I mean,
just
so
think
do I, but still, don't think, you know what? It's going to get him plastered all over me fire.
Yeah, I heard an interview with Louis Theroux actually, and they showed him it. It was on YouTube or something, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm a little bit freaked out by that." And so I was like, "Oh no!" But yeah, I've got some really, really terrible tattoos. I've had a lot of mine done in kitchens by idiots. So
Wonderful.
the
Wonderful.
mates that I've got that didn't apply themselves to music applied themselves to art. So I've got a lot of tattoo friends as well.
So I take it you'd kind of, by the time you was at school, you'd surrounded yourself with a creative bunch of people.
Yeah, I found my crowd. And when I found the Smiths, I had a mate called Sam Smith who was in like my first ever band, and he showed me Frankly Mr. Shankly. That was the first Smith song that he ever showed me, and I was like, "What is this? It's kind of funny. The guy's voice is weird. Like, what is this?" And
Yeah,
then we kind of really bonded because he just discovered the Smiths as well, and
yeah,
that was where we just sat in his room night after night just listening and talking about the music. And I don't think that was quite typical for like a 12-year-old. Like,
yeah.
I think, we were both kind of weird, and I'm so grateful that he showed me that night. And like, yeah, I found my
I,
crowd, definitely.
I feel people have missed out. If they don't have that moment where somebody goes, "This is frankly Mr. Shankly," and then you just discover the Smiths and it lands properly, you're like, oh, hang on, this is me.
Yeah.
This is about me. Like, that is a big old cuddle in them early years, and that makes everything all right. And I think that's why some of the things that Moz says now, it's it's I don't know. I think he's had such an impact on such a generation, so many generations, where he's been that it's all right to be different, and I think it just makes it that much more of a bit appeal to kind of go, huh? Why are you saying that? But
I
you've just
know.
got to hold on to the fact that Johnny Marr is the coolest guy still walking the planet. So we're all right. We've got Johnny.
We've still got Johnny. Yeah, well, I was like, I'm obviously a massive Smiths and Morrissey fan, and his recent tour, I was kind of in two minds whether to go. I went on the guest list, obviously famous,
Oh, of
but
course. How
but
was it? Because he's doing London very soon, I think.
yeah,
Um,
it's just a one-off London gig, isn't it? I
yeah,
think it's sold out, which is
and I've seen him many times, and it's really weird. I saw him at Madstock, the big Madness reunion show at the beginning of the 90s, where he come on the first day. There was two gigs. He come on the first day, waving a Union Jack, and he just got bottled and pelted by all of these kind of old school Madness fans
yeah.
that didn't particularly want to see Moz do what Moz does. I was down the front, literally screaming like. Because he was glorious. He didn't come back and play the second day. He didn't come back. But from what I gather as well, I think him and Suggs are very good friends. I think Suggs sings on Piccadilly Polare, I believe.
Mm.
But yeah, and I don't know. I'm kind of got that thing where I'm toying. Do I go to London to watch Morrissey? It's like
Do you know what,
that.
man? I loved it. It was such a good. It was so Morrissey. He didn't play anything that anyone wanted.
Yeah.
Like, but it was so good. He played Sweet and Tender Hooligan, which was
Oh,
like, it was such an amazing thing to see that. And How Soon Is Now,
yeah.
a couple of the hits, but it was mainly just Moz being like
Have you seen
Morrissey.
Johnny?
Yeah, I have. I cried. I went to see him at the Ritz when he first did his solo record. Um, and when he played "There Is a Light That Never Goes Out," I cried like a
Oh,
baby. Um,
no.
yeah,
He
I'm lucky enough to have been around Johnny quite a lot. you know, in various studios in Manchester and stuff. And he's just the coolest guy, man. He's always got loads of advice, and it's Johnny Marr. I remember being like one of our first ever recording sessions was at Blueprint Studios, and it was the first time I quit my job, and my granddad gave me some money, and he was like, I want to see you do this, you know, before he's still going, he's still alive. But he was like, go in the studio and record. So it was like $3,000, and I'd never had that much money before. And went in to record, and I was like, oh my God, this is what it's like. This is a big studio. This is it. And we were doing our guitars, and I went out for a cig or whatever. And Johnny Marr walked in the studio past me, and I was just like, is this what it's like? Like, is this like Johnny Marr's just... And he came, and he was in the... I was like pouring a glass of water, and Johnny Marr walked in, and I turned the tap too much, and he went all over me like some kind of coming of age American film. And then he walked into the studio one where we were recording. He was listening to my guitar playing and complimenting it, and I was just like, this is so weird. And then since then,
how lovely. That is absolutely lovely, right?
In it, like, imagine me being like, my first steps into like, no, this is what I'm really going to focus on. And then literally the hero walking into the room, it was just like, oh, it kind of affirmed it to me, like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Yeah, this is what I should be doing. So yeah, it was great. I love Johnny. I seen him driving the Cribs around in a transit van as well, which I just think is amazing. When he was with the Cribs, he was like tour managing them, driving them around like their dad. And I just thought that was so cool. Yeah.
Right, tell me the first song you remember buying from a record store.
I went and bought "Be Here Now" by Oasis. I mithered my mum for some money, like a tenner or whatever. Mithered, and I had a Sony Discman. And I went and bought "Be Here Now." That was the first album that I ever bought. So I've picked "Stand By Me" by Oasis because that was my favorite song on it.
In hindsight, after, you know, everything that Oasis have done, and that being the album that they generally say that was peak cocaine, and, you know, that was where the magic stopped. What are your thoughts on that record now?
I think it's a good album. Like, I know it gets a lot of stick, and obviously, like, when you've just done Definitely Maybe and What's the Story, Morning Glory, it's not going to be easy to follow that up.
You don't need to pick the mic up. You've dropped it, and you can just walk off into the sunset. Do you know what I mean? Not many bands do one of them albums, let alone two.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love Oasis. I really do. And yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite Oasis album, but it was the first one that I bought. And so I've got a lot of love for it and nostalgia because I literally played it back to back all the time, just listening to it. And it's got like All Around the World on there. I think that's an amazing song.
Don't Go Away on that album.
What's that?
Don't Go Away. That's on the album, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cracker.
Yeah, there's some great... I mean, Noel Gallagher wrote the songs. Like, they're obviously amazing. Like, he's an amazing songwriter.
Dude, like, there's a point, like, I think, you know, around the time of What's the Story, where he just was untouchable, I think. And I base that purely, and I've said it countless times on this podcast. When you start writing Talk Tonight, Master Plan, Acquiesce, and go, I'll sling them on the B-side.
I know.
That's crazy confidence, isn't it? That, like, yeah, this ain't going nowhere, this creative spurt. Like, I'm going to put that on the B-side. Like, I mean, that CD single of Some Might Say Acquiesce and Talk Tonight. Most bands that give their right arm to get anywhere near Talk Tonight or Acquiesce, let alone sling it on a B-side, it's fucking bananas. Like,
incredible. Just incredible. And yeah, I always loved Oasis because of where they came from, and it was close to me. And yeah, they're just cool, aren't they? Like, the Gallagher brothers are just cool.
Yeah.
Liam is still cool.
Yeah, 100%.
Kids still want to be Liam Gallagher.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be Liam Gallagher.
Yeah. There's not many artists from the mid-90s that if I'm flicking through a newspaper or whatever and I see an interview with them, I'll get overly excited about. If someone's interviewed Liam Gallagher, I'm going to read it. It's going to make me laugh. Like, because the geezer's just... I think working class people like watching working class people, and certainly when they kind of hit the jackpot and they prove everyone wrong. And I love it, absolutely. I'm an Essex boy. I should like Blur more.
I think you're right about that, because like even just locally with us doing well and having our marginal success, which I'm really, really proud of, so I'm going to stop downplaying it. Like a lot of people get really behind us, and it's so nice because like I'll walk into a pub and everyone's like, "Oh, how's it going? Like, how was the last gig?" And we've got some like mad stuff coming up, which I've been telling people, and people are so chuffed. Like with our next record, we've managed to do some collaborations on there. I don't even know how I've pulled this off, but it was Shawn Ryder's on the next single that's coming out, and like talking about working class heroes, Shawn Ryder, fucking hell, man, what a guy! He's weird. I love him. Like just a top guy. Like when when we're in the studio, we got like a rider through from me. He's like, I want some McCoys, but they can't be the baked ones, and I want some Guinness and some celebrations. I'm like, right, okay. So we laid them all out on a little table, and we had like 8 cans of Guinness, his non-baked McCoys, and celebrations. And he just walked in and looked at it. He was like, "Have you got a glass? I can't drink out of the can." And I was like, "Oh shit, no." So he was drinking his Guinness out of a Sports Direct mug, which I loved. I just thought that was funny. And then he just selected all his favorite celebrations, stuffed them into his pockets, put a couple of bags of crisps in his pockets, and went, "Right, that's what I'll have. I'll swap you for that," and put a Conker down. And I was like, "Mate, I'm going to keep that Conker forever." It's just like, you're the most incredible person I've ever met. It's ridiculously cool. And it was weird because like I was like, right, so I've seen him on Gogglebox and that, and what we're going to get out of him in the studio. I think it's fair to say that like you don't know what you're going to get out of Shawn Ryder when you put
you don't
him in a booth. So I was like, he's got really bad ADHD as well, and the chorus, the song's called Money, and the chorus is just money, money, money. Literally, it repeats the same word 3 times. And I was like, so the chorus is money, money, money. And he's like, "You'll have to write that down for me." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I literally wrote money down on a piece of paper 3 times and gave it to him. And he's like, "Right, cool." I'm like, "Right, sound good." So he went in the thing. And I was a bit worried because I was like, we need a Shawn Ryder call the cops, He's twisting my melon, man. We need like one of his iconic things. And do I try and write that and tell him what to say? I can't tell Shawn Ryder to say a Shawn Ryder thing. But he literally went in the booth and we were just rolling for about an hour, and everything that came out of his mouth was gold. I can't, like, honestly, I'm just going to release the whole hour version because everything that he said was amazing. And like, we were just laughing our heads off with some of it. And it was like so punchy, just really poetic sometimes hilarious. And I just thought, wow, that is why you are Shawn Ryder. How dare I even think that I should have written your bit. So, I mean, yeah, I went off on one a bit there, but
that's all right, because he's a fantastic tenuous link. Because I run a nightclub, and I've run an alternative nightclub for 30 odd years now, and my most exciting, ridiculous, and mental story, both of them actually involve Shawn Ryder at my venue. And I won't say it on there, but it does involve me having to explain that he was singing into a bottle of Bud and not a microphone. And when you meet your hero and you have to kind of switch his hands over because he's singing into a bottle of Bud, telling me that the mic's fucked.
I love him. I absolutely love him. I'm a bit worried because we're filming a music video with him next month. And yeah, there's some things that I've got to ask him to do that I'm a bit nervous about asking him to do. But yeah, amazing. And like, I'm going to go on about this, but these collaborations, we've also managed to get Boy George on the record. Oh, he's just an icon. He's literally a pop icon. I wrote this song. I sent it to Boy George. He didn't read the message. So I sent it again and he ignored it. So I sent it again. I was like, "Listen, I've written this amazing song for you, George, and you won't even listen to it. It's stupid." And then he literally said, "Send me your number." And I was like, "Oh God, I think I've upset Boy George." And I sent him my number and he rang me that night. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And he was like, darling, I love the song. I love it. It's amazing. It's amazing. Let's get in the studio. Let's do it. And Boy George, and on my birthday, I was in the studio with Boy George, and the only card I got that day was off Boy George. And it's
Oh
the
my
only one I
God.
ever won. And it sounds incredible.
Superb. And even more tenuous. Culture Club played their first ever gig at my club.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit, man.
So let's talk clubs. First song. Well, tell me the song, the soundtrack you're using, Clubland, please, Tom.
Well, this was a difficult one to pick, and I was trying to because obviously I grew up kind of going to the indie clubs and stuff like that. So
Indie clubs, it's all about indie clubs as well. It's not about chrome-laden kind of,
yeah,
high street clubs.
When I think about going out to clubs, I think about when I was like kind of in high school, and there was this under 18s night, and it was on a Tuesday and a Thursday. Only the hardcore went on Tuesday. Everyone went on a Thursday, but I went to both. I was a main head there. You know what I mean? Like, cool, that's Tom Rylance. Baggy. And it was
and a yellow
Nirvana.
jacket and a drawn-on moustache.
Here he is. Yeah. Well, at that phase, I was kind of a lot more. It was called Cafe Nirvana, and it was a metal night, really. And like, it was when new metal was coming around, so everyone wanted to be Fred Durst, and I was kind of really, really into Eminem as well. Like, I just thought that. Well, that was like when on top of the Smiths, I realized how much you could just do with words and a pen. Just like Eminem's just saying stuff, but it's incredible. Like, and people are getting upset about it, and people are really jumping. And I just love that. Anyway, so it was like a mosher club. We were moshers, and so the song that I've picked is actually off Hybrid Theory, which was another one of the albums that I'm gonna like credit in my development as a human being. In the End by Linkin Park, and I don't even care if that's an uncool pick for your very cool podcast. I'm going to pick it because it's a banger.
I think there's a lot of music from that era that I don't think's dated particularly well, and I'll throw Limp Bizkit in there. For me, Deftones, they stand tall, and
Deftones are an incredible band.
But Linkin Park, I mean, that still gets played in my club every weekend to kids that are 18 now, and they're still screaming it at the top of their lungs the way that you would have done, back then. And I think Linkin Park holds up. I really do.
Yeah. But I also think that Chocolate Starfish, it still sounds good to these days. Like, I still listen to Limp Bizkit every now and again.
Well, I mentioned Pip earlier, and him and like my other buds, they were all over that. Like, literally the other day, Pip showed me a picture of him with his Alien Ant Farm haircut with the little bit like in the front, and I was like, dude, come on! But like, they will argue Limp Bizkit with me all day long. Like, I don't know. Have you watched what's the doc on Netflix about
no, the Woodstock one.
Have you seen it?
No, I've not watched it. Like, I started to watch it and then probably got distracted by something shiny and just like and I've not gone back to it yet, but I want to.
My God, like when them and Korn come on, it's insane. Like, it's the last thing that festival needed at that point. But then when you look and people are blaming the people that booked it, it's like, but they were the biggest bands in the world at that point. Back then, that was what everyone was talking about. The fact that it was that messy that the voice of reason, people were looking to Gavin Rossdale from Bush for answers, which is quite surreal.
I must watch that. In fact, after this, I am in the van for about 6 hours, so I'm gonna watch that. It's
a cracker. It is a cracker.
Speaking of Fred Durst, really quick, have you seen him recently?
No.
He looks different, man. He looks like someone's nan, but like not in a sexy way like Harry Styles. Like, it's just like
He's got a big beard now, hasn't he?
No, last I saw him, he's got like a blonde bob.
What?
And like big nan glasses.
Shut up.
I think so.
Last time I see him, he just looked like He's got a big old grey beard and just a cap on. Looked a bit of a trucker dude. Oh my god,
Nah.
really? He's just
Yeah,
gone like full
he
nan
looks
chic.
full on Nan Chic, mate. He looks like my Grand Mavis.
Oh, wicked. Well, look, I'll tell you what, you spoke a lot about home, so let's take you home for track 6. And tell me a favourite song from an artist from your home county, please, mate.
Also very difficult because I really feel like we're really good at music.
Yeah, you are.
Is it county? Oh, I thought it said country.
County.
Oh,
It's
well,
all right.
I've done this wrong.
You'll be guest 430 out of 479 that have said exactly that. But don't worry.
Really?
I'll give you 2. Who did you have for country?
For country, I had Jealous Guy, John Lennon, because wow, it was one of the greatest songs ever written. I can really relate to that. And you picked John Lennon, did you? What else do you like? Going on holiday, drinking water? Like, yeah, all right, yeah, sorry. I didn't want to go for the Beatles, but so I went for John Lennon.
Jealous
But if
Guys.
it's county,
Incredible.
oh yeah, like one of the best songs ever.
Yeah.
I tried to cover it once, and Christ, it was bad. So like,
What do you make of Roxy's cover of it?
I don't think I've heard that.
Oh, go check out Roxy Music's cover. I think they had a #1 with it as well.
Really? Maybe I have then. Maybe I didn't like it. I've heard Elliott Smith's cover of it. That's really good.
Yeah.
I haven't, and can't recall the Roxy Music one. Maybe I have heard it. I don't know. It's not going to be as good though, is it?
Of course it's not. Of course it's not. It's about as close to perfect as you can get that record.
If I am going to go home county,
Yeah.
then the late Pete Shelley is actually from Lee,
Oh,
the little town that I'm from. So I'm going to go, What Do I Get?
Even better.
Yeah, because what an amazing song. And it's also in one of my favorite films. I don't know if you've seen Ghost World, but that was one of the films that, like, growing up meant a lot to me. And there's a great scene when Thora Birch is singing that, and I always think about that. And yeah, and I always thought, God, this guy's from Lee, and his song's in my favorite film, like, and that was inspiring to me. Like, I can do that. So yeah, that's what I'm going for. That was a better answer than Jealous Guy.
Oh, that's a great shout. That's a great shout. And I think
I
possibly
shouldn't have put any preparation into these answers at all,
No.
because they would have
shoot from the hip every time, mate. It's so, and also shout out. I think that's the first time the Buzzcocks have got a mention on this podcast. So, and it's a very, very welcome one.
Is that not the first time the Beatles have had a shout out?
I think you're the first one to pick Lennon.
Oh, really?
I don't think anyone's chose Lennon. But yeah, intros, quite a few people have chose Help. Because that don't muck about, does it? That's like straight in. Right. Final song. Tell me a song that you think many people may not know that you would like them to hear, please.
Well, I think that I might have picked up. I think maybe everyone knows this, but I only discovered it a couple of days ago, and I've not been able to stop. It's by an artist called Ren, and the song's called Hi Ren. And I watched the video, and it's just, have you seen it? Have you heard it? Yeah. So, like, the video is just a very simple video. He's like in like a medical gown, sat in a wheelchair, playing a classical acoustic guitar, and singing and rapping. And he does this whole song, which is like a back and forth between him and his inner monologue, and his anxiety and his thoughts and his depression. And it is amazing. It's 9 minutes long.
Yeah.
And we're talking about this TikTok generation and the short attention spans. He's done this 9 minute long song, and it is landed. And like, everybody needs to hear that, especially if you're a creative and you make music and you have these same kind of thought. It was like, he's just like in my head. This is so weird. It was like all his insecurities were the same as mine, and like the imposter syndrome, and then fighting that. And I was just thought, that is one of the most incredible pieces that I've ever heard. So yeah, that Hi Ren by Ren.
Wonderful. Tommy put together a Spotify playlist to accompany the pod with all of the tracks on. And obviously, we will put some of your music on there as well. So with that in mind, what's happening with the band? What's coming up, mate?
Oh, well, we're just about, like, literally tomorrow, or in the past, whenever you post this, we start our tour with Frank Turner. which is good. So like Frank's always been a big supporter of us, and we've collaborated with him on this new album, and also on our, I want to say hit, but we don't have any hits. But our like biggest song, I suppose, is a song called "Start Again" that Frank sings on, and I love Frank. And,
he's a lovely human, isn't he?
Oh, just like obviously I love him as a songwriter, and I'm inspired by him and his work. But as a human being, I don't think I know anybody who's got more time for people, who's kinder, who, you know, like all the stuff that he did during that stinky lockdown where he was like raising money for music venues, which, you know, directly affected me because they were still there for me to play, you know, the independent music venues, and he was raising money for his crew that weren't getting paid. And I just think the guy's got a heart of gold, and I'm so looking for, we've played with him before, but never toured. So I'm looking forward to spending a few weeks with the guy. Really looking forward to that. And then we've got a record coming out, which they're proud of. It's called Anxiety Replacement Therapy, or ART, which, you know, Scrooby as Pip himself could have thought of. That is how clever that is. And it's a record that I'm so proud of, and I'm looking forward to that getting out there and doing our headline tours, and just all the stuff that bands do, releasing albums and touring. And but I'm dead proud, and it's going so big, man. Like, so with the venues that we've just booked for the end of this year are staggering and scary and just too big, but we're gonna try. We're gonna do it.
Love it. Absolutely. Absolutely, mate. Best of luck to you. And if people want to keep up the speed with everything that the band's doing, tour dates, releases and such, where's the best place to keep up to speed with you?
My mum knows everything, so
right.
if you just want to
we'll
go
put
and
her
find
phone number there and just give her a shout.
Just go and find her. She's usually in like Aldi in Tilsley, like a lot of the time. So if you just hang around there, you'll find her. No, you know, socials, whatever.
Wonderful. Well, look, if it's cool with you, Tom, we'll tag you in it when this comes out. So if people aren't following you already,
I just want to say, like,
do that.
Thanks so much for having me. You've had some real famous people, and I don't know if you're scraping a barrel or doing this as kind of a joke, but I really appreciate you having me on this, man. Like,
I have had a lovely time. It's been such a nice natter, and I've had a good laugh as well. So it's been absolutely a wonderful hour spent. Honestly, Tom, thank you so much, mate.
Thank you, mate. Nice to meet you.
Absolutely. I'm going to press stop. Don't go anywhere.